Well, we had a little bit of an emergency in our house last weekend, and while my husband is okay, I genuinely thought he was having a heart attack at the time. And as I dialed 999, which it is in Ireland, 911 in the US, there was a number of different things that were going through my mind. At first, I thought we just needed the doctor. And so I called the doctor's number and I got the hold music. And in between the hold music, a message comes on that says, if this is an emergency, hang up and dial emergency services. And I heard that once and I really didn't listen to it. I said, no, that's not what I need. In my head, I really didn't want it to be an emergency. I thought, just need the doctor and he'll be fine. But as I was driving down the road towards the doctor's, I heard that message again. And a little voice in my head said, hang up, Kira, and dial the ambulance. So I did. And immediately, within seconds, I was through to a lovely girl at emergencies who stayed with me on the phone for the whole 45 minutes as we waited for the ambulance to arrive. At this stage, we had driven back to the house because she wanted me to get some Disprin or Alka-Seltzer to give to Michael. And I couldn't find any. I couldn't find any in the house. All I could find was paracetamol. So I needed to call my neighbors. Now, this was a really big lesson that I learned. My neighbors' phone numbers were in my phone, and I was on the phone to emergency services. I could not hang up. And so I needed to get Michael's phone and dial the numbers from there, but I had to get them out of my phone. And in my state of emergency, I kept typing in their names wrong and spelling it wrong. And so I really learned at that moment to have emergency numbers written out very clearly and put somewhere obvious in the house. So I could have just picked up Michael's phone and dialed their number straight away. And the second lesson was to have Disprin or aspirin somewhere very handy in the house, and to tidy up my medicine box because I just couldn't see the wood from the trees. So going back to the emergency girl, she was very calm. She was obviously very well trained, and she was keeping me calm, so that my job was to keep Michael calm. She's told me was his eyes and ears, or her eyes and ears, to monitor him. Was he getting worse, and what was the situation? She also asked for a defibrillator. Now, I knew there was one in the village somewhere. The village was a few miles from our house, but I knew who to call in order to get that. So I made that phone call. And we are so lucky and so blessed as to where we live. Within 10 minutes of making those phone calls, I had four neighbours here with turning up with Alka-Seltzer and a defibrillator. Now, I live quite rurally, and some people would live more than 10 minutes away, but they got here. And again, that was a wonderful feeling of support and feeling that I wasn't alone. So a wave of relief washed over me as I saw the ambulance driving down our lane, and I told Michael, help us here. So the ambulance guys, within a few minutes were able to do a diagnostic and to tell us that he was going to be okay. They did an ECG test so they could see that his heart wasn't in a big sense of trauma and having a heart attack, and his vitals were good. He is a fit and healthy man who has a very healthy diet, and they said, you're going to be okay. And as I was looking at the whole situation, as it was, kind of passing by me so quickly, and as the ambulance took off towards the hospital, I remember the flashing lights, and I thought, what are the lessons? that we can take from this. After a few days, I was able to think more clearly like this. So to bring it back to sales and what can we apply from this in our business, the first lesson would be when I didn't listen to that message straight away or didn't act on it to hang up and dial the emergency services. And, when you look at business, what has and is the most important thing that we're doing right now with our clients is speaking to them. And are we really, really listening to the answers that they are giving us? And sometimes we can tend to not want to hear what they're telling us. Things have changed in their business since COVID. Things may have dramatically changed, which will involve your company, you having to adapt your services to them. And sometimes we resist change because it's too much hassle, it's too much work. We can't get our heads around that. So, is there a conversation flow? That is a big red flashing light in your business. Is there a conversation flow? Because conversation flows create cash flows. And then, are we really listening to what our clients are telling us? From working with teams around the world, there's a number of shortfalls or alarm bells that I would see, and this conversation piece is a key one. And while a lot of sales teams were furloughed or because of our mental state over lockdown kind of withdrew into ourselves, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Kira, I don't want to bother my customers. I want to, just leave them alone. Why would they be hearing from me? It's not the right time to sell." And my answer is this: now is an extremely important time to be in conversation with clients. Um, you know, does your database have people's cell phone and mobile numbers? If not, we need to build that as a database. But a big shortfall I see is the lack of ability of sales teams to have strategic conversations with clients. And are they prepared, and do they know what are the killer questions, as I call them, to be able to lead a strategic conversation? And when I coach teams and salespeople, they almost whisper to me, "Kira, I don't know what is an interesting conversation to have with a client after I've asked about the RFP or perhaps that lead inquiry." So, are they able to talk beyond their product, beyond their service, and really dig deep and find out what is happening in the hearts, the minds of your clients, and what is happening at board level in that business? So, that's a really important skill. And another lesson that I took from this is when I was sifting through the medicine box to find that Disprin or the Alka-Seltzer, I couldn't find what I was looking for, and so I went back and I tidied it all up, and I really looked at our medical box from the eyes of somebody who's in a panic looking for something. And it brought to mind, how often are we really taking a step back and looking at your business from the eyes of your client? Because your clients see something very different in your business than you do. And do you have a process in place to be able to take that step back? It's something that's very hard to do by yourself, and it can take a facilitated session, let's say, in order to be able to do that. So, those are two key lessons to be able to apply to your business. A third one, which is very important to me and to my heart, is that all important feeling of security and safety that that emergency operator gave me. She stayed on the phone the whole time. My neighbors, my community were immediately here for me and stayed with myself and Michael until the emergency had passed and he had gone to the hospital. And do your clients really feel that you got them? Do they feel that you are holding them in your hand? Because that's how the emergency girl made me feel. And as your businesses are opening up and more conversations hopefully are happening with clients, sometimes they need to rant. They need to just let off steam that perhaps they're not able to let off within their company. And do they feel really listened to? Can you just hold that space for them, let them rant, and not be tempted to tell them your woes and how terrible lockdown or COVID was for you? And just really hold that space for them and then be able to take back control of the conversation. Be empathetic, say, that really sounds like, terrible situation for you. It was, rough time. Let's talk perhaps about some opportunities and how we can create some opportunities here and perhaps turn that around and get them talking about, your how you could provide a solution for them or be that rock and that person that they need. So those are three lessons that I took from dialing 999, and thanks be to God, I'm able to tell this story in a calm voice right now because my husband is home and is safe. And, we're obviously looking at changes that we need to make in his lifestyle and his work in order to avoid another situation like that. But hopefully, those three lessons in business, in talking to your clients, in the ability to have really great strategic conversations are a great lesson to you. For reading more details and a few more lessons on that, read below where I have them detailed out. Thank you very much. This is Kira Feely, and this has been the Feely Focus. If you'd like to subscribe and hear some other words of wisdom, practical sales tips, I promise that's all I will deliver to you. Please subscribe below. Thanks a million. Bye.